So this is where my line is. I'm going to pull my line, the right line, into the next bead, and we are starting with step number 7. My line is in 2 bead, this 2 bead. Now my left line, I add 3 bead to my left line, cross and pull. I'm going to go into the next 2 bead, this 2 bead. This is the first, this is the second bead, and I add 2 bead to my left line, add 2 bead, cross and pull. Now into the next 2 bead, I add 2 bead to my line, into 2, into the next 2 bead, two bead, into the next 2 bead, I add 2 bead to my line, I pull my right line into the next 2 bead. Now I'm adding 2 to my left line. I'm going to cross with my right line and pull, cross and pull down. I'm going to pull again into the next 2 bead. And I add 2 bead to my left line, cross and pull. Into the next 2, we are about to complete this step. So over here, I'm pulling my right line into 2 bead and adding 2 bead to my left line. I add 2 bead to my left line, I cross and pull down. Into the next 2 bead, two bead, into the next 2, I added 2 bead to my line, cross and pull. Now I'm pulling my line again into 2 bead. I add 2 bead to my left line, cross and pull down. Now this is the last 2 that I'm going to pull my line through. This is the first one and this is the second one. And I'm going to go up 1 bead. Pull into this bead. Now my line is in 4 bead. Okay, 4 bead over here. And I'm going to add only 1 bead to complete this step. I'm going to hold and tie. Tie nice and neat in between the bead and whip the rest of the line into the bead before you trim it off. This is how it's looking like. Now we complete step number 7 and we are going to continue to build. I'm going to pull my line into 2 bead. These 2 bead over here, these 2 bead. I'm going to pull my line through them and we are going to start step number 8. My line is in 2 bead, okay? And I'm going to start with 4 bead. I'm going to cross with my right line and pull down. I'm going to pull my right line again. This is how it's looking like, okay? We have this ring over here. This is the first one, into 2 bead again. Put a line into 2 bead. I add 3 bead to my left line. Cross with the right line and pull. I'm going to pull my right line again into the next 2 bead. Into the next 2 bead, I pull my right line. Then I add 3 beads to my left line, like this, and I'm going to cross with my right line and pull down. Into the next 2 beads, my right line into the next 2 beads. And on my left line, I add 3 beads to my left line. Cross and pull. I'm going to pull again, my right line into the next 2. I add 3 beads to my left line. Okay, 3 beads, cross with the right line and pull, cross and pull. Now I'm going to pull through the last 2 beads, these 2 over here. Okay, I'm going to pull my right line into the next 2 beads. This is the last 2 beads we have. Now I'm going to go 1 up, 1 bead up, pull into this bead, and the number of bead, my line is in 4 bead. Okay, if you look at it, 1 2 3 4, this 4 bead, my line is in it. I need only 2 beads to complete this step. 2 bead, going to pull my line, right line into the last bead and pull. Now we are going to start step number 9. Let's continue. So I'm going to pull my right line into the next bead, and my left line, I add 4 beads to my left line, cross and pull. Now into the next 2 beads, these 2 beads, bring my line through the next 2 beads. I add 3 beads to my left line, cross and pull down. Into the next 2 beads, I add 3 beads to my left line. I cross with my right line and pull. I'm going to pull again into 2 beads. Pull my right line into 2 beads. I add 3 beads to my left line. I cross and pull down. Into 2 beads again. I add 3 beads. Cross and pull. Now I'm going to pull my line into the last 2 beads. Pull through the first one, and this is the second one. Now I'm going to pull again up 1 bead. I'm going to go up 1 bead to step up. So now I need only 2 beads to complete this step. I add 2 beads to my left line and cross. This is 2 beads I add to my line. I cross with my right line and pull down. This is how it's looking like. Step 9 is done. We are going to continue with step 10. Step number 10, this is how it's looking like. We are going to repeat the same step again up, okay? So my right line into the next bead. I'm pulling my right line into the next bead. Now my left line. So the step 10, I want to decorate a little bit with this red bead. We are going to use it on the edge, okay? So I'm starting with 4 beads. And this is how I'm going to arrange it on the line. So this is how I'm going to arrange my bead on the line. Like this. I put 2 red, and in between I put 2 crystal beads, the clear crystal bead. And this is how it's going to go, okay? Now I'm going to put my right line again into the next 2 beads. This is how it's looking like. I'm going to go into 2 beads again. Put my line into 2 beads. Now on my left line, I pick up 2 crystals and a red bead. Again, I'm going to put my line again into the next 2 beads. Into 2 beads. And on my left line, I add 3 beads, 2 clear crystals and 1 red. Into the next 2. I add 2 crystals and 1 red bead. Into the next 2 beads. Two crystal bead and 1 red. Cross into the red and pull down. So now I'm going to go into the last 2 beads. I pull my right line into the last 2 beads. And I'm going to go up into the red bead. This one. I'm going to pull my line again into the red bead. That way I can step up and continue the weaving. Now I need only 2 clear crystals to complete this step. I add 2 crystal beads to my left line and cross it with my right line and pull down. Now this is how it's looking like. You see how the vase is looking so pretty beautiful already? Now I'm going to pull my right line again into the next bead. This line into the next bead. Now on my left line, this line, I add 4 beads to my left line. Cross with the right line and pull. Now I'm going to pull my line again into the next 2 beads. My right line into the next 2 beads. So I'm going to pull my right line again into the next 2 beads. And I add 3 beads. This line, my left line, I add 3 beads to my left line. I'm going to cross with my right line and pull down. Now again, with my right line into the next 2 beads. Putting my line to the next 2 beads. And again, I add 3 beads to my left line. Cross and pull down. Into the next 2. Into 2 beads, I pull my right line. And now I add 3 beads onto my left line. Cross with the right line and pull down. I'm going to pull my line through the next 2 beads. Go to the next 2 and add 3 beads to your left line. Cross and pull down. Now I'm going to pull through the final 2 beads. I'm going to pull through these 2 beads. Going to pull through these 2, the last 2 beads. And the one up, I'm going to go up 1 bead, this one. I'm going to pull my line through this bead over here, so I can step up and continue my weaving. And this is how it's looking like. I have my line in 4 beads. these 4 beads over here. That is where my line is, and I'm going to complete this step with 2 beads. Like this, and I'm going to cross into the last one and pull down. Now we complete step number 11. All right, this is how it's looking like. Now we are going to do the final step, which is step 12. This is how the vase is looking like. Now we have to complete it. So this is the step number 12. My line is in 1 bead over here. So this is how I'm going to arrange my bead on the line. Like this. I take 2 clear crystals, and in between I put 4 red beads. I'm going to cross my right line into the crystal like this, okay? I take the bead like this. This is how I arrange it on the line. And now I'm going to cross my right line into the clear crystal and pull. Now I'm going to pull again into 1 bead, the next bead. I pull through the next bead. And now I add 3 red and 1 crystal. Like this. Cross and pull down. Now into the next bead. This time I'm pulling my line through only 1 bead. I add 4 red crystal and 1 clear one. 1 clear crystal. Cross and pull down. Into the next bead. Three red and 1 white. Cross and pull. Into the next bead. I add 4 red and 1 clear crystal. Cross with my right line and pull down. Now I'm going to pull my right line again into the next bead. I add 3 red and 1 clear crystal. Into the next bead, 4 red, 1 crystal. Into the next bead, 3 red and 1 crystal. Into the next, I add 4 red and 1 clear crystal. Into the next, I add 3 red and 1 white clear crystal, like this. And now into the last bead, I pull into the last one and this one. I think I don't have more red bead over here, so I'm just going to complete it with this 4 pink bead to complete my weave, okay? So I'm just going to tie over here, and I'm going to tie in between these 2 beads. And after I tie, I'm going to weave the rest of my line into the bead. Tie in between the bead and not on the bead. So from here, I'm just going to weave it a little bit into the bead before I trim the ends off. And we are done with our flower vase, our flower jar, and it's so much easy if you follow this step. If you follow the step correctly, you will have the same thing I have over here. And this is our vase, and this is how it's looking like. Look at how pretty, how beautiful it looks like. Very, very beautiful for your home decor. Our beaded vase, beaded jar is complete. I thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel also, and turn on your notifications for any new videos that I'll be uploading so you don't miss on it. Thank you so much for your time and support, and I will see you guys again in my next video. Bye.